Jealous sister tried to ruin my baby shower by announcing fake paternity test results. Then her husband unexpectedly served her with divorce papers in front of everyone. There are some moments you look forward to your entire life. For me, it was the baby shower. Not just because I was going to be a dad for the first time, but because it felt like a turning point, like I'd finally escaped the chaos that was my childhood and built something peaceful, real, and mine. My wife, Emma, was glowing. 8 months along and somehow still radiant and energetic as ever. She'd insisted on planning most of the baby shower herself, but our friends and my in-laws pitched in and it turned out incredible. White and gold balloons, soft fairy lights, an insane dessert table that looked like it was lifted from Pinterest, and a backyard filled with people who cared about us. My family? Well, that was complicated. I went no contact with my dad years ago. As for my sister Melissa, let's just say we've always had a rocky thing going on. Growing up, Melissa was the golden child. Smart, beautiful, confident, and petty as hell. She could cut you down with a sentence and smile while doing it. But she was family. And after our mom passed away, I figured keeping her in my life, even at a distance, was better than nothing. She showed up late to the shower in a tight dress and towering heels, dragging her husband behind her like a trophy. Melissa had this way of walking into a room like she owned it, head high, eyes scanning for someone to compete with. She hugged Emma tightly, complimented her dress, then gave me a side hug that felt more like a pat down. From the start, I could tell something was off. She was too cheerful, clingy, whispering things in people's ears, laughing a little too loud, sipping her wine too quickly. I tried to ignore it. I was focused on the celebration. This was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, right? But in the back of my head, something didn't sit right. We did the usual shower games, opened gifts, took a million photos. People were starting to settle down, talking in little clusters while Emma rested on a patio lounger. I was standing by the drinks table, chatting with one of Emma's cousins when I noticed Melissa talking to my best friend, Nate. She had her hand on his arm and was leaning in too close. Nate walked away looking pissed. I made a mental note to ask him later what that was about. But before I could, Melissa clinked her glass with a spoon, loudly, and called for everyone's attention. That's when everything changed. The backyard went quiet. Forks froze halfway to mouths. A couple people chuckled awkwardly, expecting some cringy speech or weird inside joke. Melissa always had a flair for the dramatic, so nobody really expected what came next. She stood up straight, wine glass in one hand, her phone in the other. I just want to say, she started, her voice syrupy sweet, how happy I am for my little brother. Honestly, this baby is such a blessing. She turned to Emma and placed a hand over her heart like she was genuinely emotional. But, she said, dragging the word out as someone who's deeply invested in this family, I think it's important that everything is transparent, right? I was frozen. I remember blinking at her, not even processing her words yet. Just this rising chill in my chest, like my brain knew what was about to happen before I did. She held up her phone. Because, well, secrets have a way of catching up to people. Don't they, Emma? Emma's face went pale. And then Melissa said it. Loud, clear. I received something interesting in my inbox this morning. A paternity test result. And it says you, she pointed at me, are not the father of this baby. For a second, it felt like the wind got knocked out of me. I thought I misheard her. Everyone did. There was this thick silence, like the whole world held its breath. Then gasps. Murmurs. A couple people whispered, what the hell, and someone, I think it was Emma's aunt, dropped her glass, and it shattered on the patio. Emma stood up, trembling. What are you talking about? Melissa tapped on her screen. I have the document right here. It was sent anonymously. But it says that the DNA doesn't match. So maybe we should all have a conversation about that before we celebrate a baby that might not even be my brother's. I didn't even move. I just stood there, burning. My ears were ringing. My heart was in my throat. I looked at Emma and I didn't know whether to cry or scream. Emma looked at me, devastated. Her hands were shaking as she tried to speak, but nothing came out. Her dad stood up like he was going to say something, but then just sat back down, stunned. And then the whispers started. People looking at me with pity. Others giving Emma side eyes like they already made up their minds. I was humiliated. Publicly. On the one day that was supposed to be about celebrating our new life, Melissa torched it to the ground. I remember Nate coming over to me, gripping my shoulder. Let's go inside, bro. But I couldn't move. I just stared at Melissa, who looked smug as hell. Like this was a victory for her. And then Emma screamed. I never took a paternity test. That's not real. You made that up, you psychotic. Melissa cut her off. Oh, please. Deny it all you want. But everyone deserves the truth, don't they? Emma was sobbing now. I finally pulled myself together enough to step forward, but not toward Melissa. Toward Emma. Is it true? I asked quietly. I hated myself for even asking. But in that moment I needed anything to anchor me. Emma shook her head violently. No. I swear to God, no. I don't know what that is. I don't know how she got it or where it came from, but I didn't cheat. I love you. That's our baby. I looked back at Melissa. And that's when I saw it, just for a second, a flicker of something in her eyes. Fear. Not smugness. Not righteousness. Just the tiniest crack in her perfect performance. And I knew something was off. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. The silence that followed was loud enough. Emma ran inside, sobbing. Her mom followed her, looking half confused, half enraged, but Melissa didn't stop. She kept standing there, wine glass in one hand, phone in the other, like she was waiting for applause. What she got instead was Nate. He walked right up to her and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "You're a real piece of work, you know that?" She just blinked. "Excuse me. You should be," he said, stepping closer. "Because I know exactly where that paternity test came from." The entire backyard was still. Everyone was staring now, the neighbors, the in-laws, even Emma's little cousin stopped mid-bite with cake frosting on her lip. Melissa scoffed. "You don't know shit." Nate pulled out his phone. "You used an online template. A fake DNA test generator. There's a site. You just plug in the names and results and it makes a PDF. You even left the watermark in the bottom corner. I looked it up as soon as you opened your mouth. I swear to God, you could feel the temperature shift." Someone let out a low whistle. Melissa's husband, who'd been silent the whole time, finally stood up. And what he said next knocked the wind out of everyone again. "She faked it," he said quietly. "Because she was jealous." Melissa whipped around. "What the hell are you talking about?" Her husband, Jake, didn't raise his voice. He just stared at her like he was looking at a stranger. "You've been spiraling for months. You can't stand that your brother's happy. That he's settled. That his wife is kind and smart and actually loves him. You told me multiple times that Emma didn't deserve this life and that she was probably cheating." Melissa's face turned red, then white. "You're twisting everything." "No, I'm done twisting things. I'm done covering for you. I found the draft on our shared iPad, Melissa. The original. The one you downloaded and edited." She started to speak, but Jake just raised a hand. And then he did something I never saw coming. He reached into his pocket, pulled out an envelope, and dropped it onto the dessert table. "This is for you," he said. "Consider it your own surprise today." Melissa stared at it like it was ticking. Jake turned to the crowd, cleared his throat, and said, "I've been married to Melissa for 6 years. I've watched her manipulate people, lie to her own family, and sabotage anyone who has something she doesn't. I let it go for too long. But I'm done. These are divorce papers. Signed and ready." The room exploded. Gasps, yelling, someone even clapped. I still don't know who it was, but I owe them a drink. Melissa stood there, trembling, caught in the spotlight she wanted, just not like this. She finally snapped. Screamed at Jake. At me. At Emma, who had come back out with tears drying on her cheeks and rage in her eyes. "You're all against me. You've always been against me." And then she stormed out, heels clicking, knocking over a chair on her way through the gate. The sound of her car starting up and peeling out was the last punctuation on a moment that felt like a fever dream. After that, the party kind of fizzled. People didn't know what to do or say. Some guests left quietly. Others stayed to clean up, throwing looks of disbelief back and forth. Emma and I sat on the patio side by side, her hand in mine, neither of us talking. Everything was raw. My stomach was still in knots. But for the first time in hours, I believed her. That night, the silence between me and Emma said everything. I didn't sleep. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling fan, listening to her breathing. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that moment, Melissa holding her phone like a damn trophy, waiting for my world to implode. And for a second, it did. I kept asking myself, how did I let her get that close? How did I not see it coming? The next morning, Emma was already up, sitting in the nursery we'd been decorating for months. She had one hand on her belly, the other holding the little stuffed elephant we bought the first day we found out we were having a girl. "I don't know how to come back from this," she whispered, her voice cracked from crying. "I can't believe she did that." At our baby shower, I knelt in front of her, took her hands, and said what I'd been struggling to find words for since yesterday. "I'm sorry I doubted you. Even for a second. I was blindsided. She humiliated you. She humiliated us. I hate her for that." Emma just nodded, her eyes filled with a kind of hurt I can't even describe. And that's what crushed me the most. Not Melissa's lie. Not the embarrassment. But that Emma, who has been nothing but good to me, got hurt trying to bring a life into this world. Bye, my sister. We spent most of that day in a fog. Friends kept texting asking if we were okay, if we needed anything. Nate dropped off a box of pastries and a card that just said, blood might be thicker, but sometimes water's cleaner. By late afternoon, Jake, Melissa's now ex-husband, I guess, called me. I didn't pick up. I couldn't. But he left a voicemail. Hey, man. I just wanted to say. I'm sorry. I should have warned you. I knew she was spiraling, but I didn't think she'd go that far. She's been obsessed with this weird narrative that Emma was faking everything, that you were too dumb to see it. I kept shutting it down, but she went nuclear. I filed the papers weeks ago, actually. Yesterday just felt like the right time to deliver them. I'm sorry it happened like that. You didn't deserve any of it. He sounded tired, defeated, but honest. Later, Emma got a message from Melissa. It just said, you're lucky. You've always been lucky. I hope it lasts. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just bitterness wrapped in a cheap dig. We didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. In the days that followed, something weird happened. We felt lighter. It's like the storm had ripped the roof off, and yeah, it sucked, but at least now we knew where the rot was. At least now we could start rebuilding. I called my mom's sister, Aunt Rochelle, someone Melissa had cut ties with years ago over a petty argument, and told her everything. She cried. Said she always knew something was off with Melissa, but no one ever wanted to rock the boat. Then she said something that stuck with me. Sometimes the most dangerous people in your life are the ones who live in your family photos. A week after the baby shower, the decorations were still up. Emma kept saying we'd take them down soon, but I think we both needed them there for a little longer. Like proof that the day was supposed to be beautiful, that it wasn't all ruined, no matter how hard Melissa tried. But the emotional hangover lingered. I didn't realize how deep the damage went until I was alone in the kitchen one night, reheating leftover lasagna from the party. I opened the fridge and saw the little pink frosted cupcakes with, "It's a girl," piped across them in delicate curls. And I just lost it. I didn't even cry during the whole ordeal. Not when Melissa lied. Not when Emma broke down. Not when I found out my own sister would rather see me hurt than happy. But those cupcakes, they did me in. I sat on the floor and sobbed like a kid. Grief, anger, shame. It all came pouring out. And in the middle of it, Emma walked in, didn't say a word, and just sat beside me. She wrapped her arms around me, bump and all, and we stayed like that, silent, on the cold tile floor. I don't want her to be part of our daughter's life, she finally whispered. And I said, she won't be. I swear. That moment sealed it. No more chances. No, maybe she'll change. Melissa was done. I wasn't going to be the guy who let toxicity linger just because we shared DNA. A few days later, Nate threw us a reset celebration. It was small, quiet. Just a few friends, some takeout, and zero drama. No speeches. No fancy games. Just people who actually gave a damn about us. At one point, Emma looked over at me and smiled, really smiled, for the first time since it all went down. This, she said, feels like family. And it did. Because here's the truth I learned through all of this. Family isn't who you're born to. It's who shows up for you when your world caves in. Jake reached out again, this time just to say thank you. Said he'd been living in Melissa's shadow for so long. He forgot what peace felt like. I wished him well. Told him I hoped he found his footing again. I don't know what Melissa's doing now. I haven't checked her socials. Haven't answered her messages. She sent a few, mostly vague emotional manipulation disguised as reflection. Sorry you feel the way you do. Hope one day you'll understand. You always took everything so personally. Classic non-apology garbage. I blocked her number 2 days ago. Emma's already had her blocked. We talked about it, about setting boundaries before the baby arrives. About how we're going to protect our daughter from people who think love means control. I'm not going to raise my child in a family where sabotage is served alongside birthday cake. 3 weeks after the chaos, our daughter was born. It was 3:47 a.m. after an 18-hour labor that felt like time had both slowed to a crawl and sped by in blinks. Emma was a warrior, there's no other word for it. And when our baby cried for the first time, I swear the sound cracked something open in me I didn't know I'd locked shut. Her name is Iris. Tiny, pink, with a tuft of dark hair and her mom's dimples. When the nurse placed her in my arms, I just stared at her like she was a living miracle. Because she was. She didn't know anything about the drama, the betrayal, the bullshit that had torn through our lives just weeks before. All she knew was warmth, breath, skin, love. And in that moment, I made her a promise. I whispered it, so soft only she and God could hear. You'll never feel unloved. You'll never doubt where you belong. I won't let anyone poison this for you. Not even family.